Hello there. This is a quick tutorial about the project structure and also just a high-level overview of processing. Now, when it comes to processing, I'm not going to get into a lot of detail about what it is and how it works. I'm just going to stay very high level and give you a bit of a mental model of what's going on. But first, let's talk a bit about the project and what this even is, what you're looking at. On first glance, this probably looks very overwhelming. There's a lot of different classes and things, but really there's only one or two classes you'll have to edit. I predict that those classes may mainly be controller.pde, item.java, or character.java, but really this is all open to you. So what I'm going to do is first I'm going to give you a high-level mental model of what processing does. Second, I'm going to go through some of the classes that you probably won't need to edit, but should just know they exist just to have a high-level understanding of what's going on. And then finally, I'm going to talk about some of the classes that you may want to edit and just tell you what's going on in those. The main thing that we did here was make something that visualizes what the robot is doing when you give it a fetch request. And the main script here is actually called roboethics.pde. So I'm just going to open it up in processing now. Okay, so this is basically the main access point of the program. I'll just quickly show you what it does when I run it. Right, so basically we have the whole apartment laid out here. We've got our characters down here that you can interact with, and each room has different items in it. And you can give a request. You can say, hey, some character, Amy Copper, that's the daughter, requests to bring, let's say, a beer to, let's say, Ben. Ben is the baby. So now when I click execute, the little robot moves over, grabs the beer, comes back, and goes and gives the beer to the baby. What we basically prepared for you is a basic framework where the robot can move around the house and grab things and bring them anywhere. So your task is to basically extend this system and implement some sort of ethical decision-making process so that things like this may or may not happen. I don't know. Maybe you think this is ethically sound or something like that, and babies should have beer. I'm not here to judge either way, but that's for you guys to decide. Anyway, so that's the basic program, and like you can just run it over and over and play around with it and stuff like that. I'm going to get into a little bit about processing itself, just again at a super high level. So within the main script, in every processing sketch, there's two main functions, setup and also draw. And these are built-in processing functions. Setup is run basically when this class is instantiated. So it'll run exactly once when it's created. Setup is useful for instantiating a bunch of things, and that's actually what's going on right here. In draw, this is called on every frame. So if there's animations and things like that, or continuous logic checks or something like that, that stuff all goes into draw. So now you may be thinking, let's take a look at our project structure. I see some .pde files and I see some .java files. What the heck is the difference between .pde and Java and processing in Java and all that other stuff? Basically, every processing file is called a .pde file, but secretly all the .pde files actually get converted to .java files when you compile it. So when we run this, what actually happens is in this out folder, if we go into source and find the exact same thing, roboethics.java, we basically see the exact same code here and here. The only difference is it's encapsulated in a class called Roboethics that extends papplet. Papplet is basically like the processing library, and there's a whole bunch of nasty imports up here. So I just opened up the folder in Visual Studio Code. If you have no respect for your own free time like me, you can use any IDE you want with processing. It just takes a little bit of time. So for the hackathon, I think it's just better just to use a peer processing IDE. But again, if you have no respect for your own free time, you can use whatever you want. You can use like Eclipse, and there's all these different tutorials out there for how to do that. So I'm basically just going to use this IDE to quickly explore through the different classes and give you a high-level overview of some of them. So, as I said before, the point of entry for this program is roboethics.pde. Now, in roboethics.pde, we have the main render loop. All the items in the environment all extend from this base class called entity.java. Again, I'm not going to go into these classes in much depth because you're not really going to have to touch them. I'm just giving you a high-level overview of what's going on. And if you need more information, you can contact any of us. You can see item is basically a blank canvas. Character is also basically a blank canvas. Room is not a blank canvas at all. And that's mainly because there's a bunch of render methods to display rooms. Another class is GUI.pde. This just displays the bottom panel that you interact with. Next is Cars UI. This is a UI library that we use to make buttons. Then there's Scenario.java. In here, we basically define the scene. So, for example, we instantiate a bunch of new rooms. We create a bunch of new characters. We create a bunch of new items. And then we connect all the rooms together, put characters in the rooms, blah, blah, blah. You're not really going to have to touch this class at all. However, it may be useful to access references to rooms or characters or items. Now I'll quickly show you how to do that. So let's say you want to get a reference to a character. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into Roboethics. I'll put the scenario and Roboethics side by side just so you can kind of see what I'm looking at here. And let's say we have this character hash map here. So I'm going to say character equals, let's say scenario dot instance dot characters. And let's say we want to get Ben, which is the baby, dot get Ben. Maybe I'll just rename this Ben. And now we want to print Ben's name. So we'll say Ben's name, oh my God, is, I wonder what Ben's name is. Let's find out. Ben.name. So I'm going to run the sketch. I'm just going to close the sketch now. Ben's name is Ben. Wow, what a surprise. So that's just a basic gist of how to get a character. I'm going to talk a little bit about files you may want to edit. So basically, let's see. There's one called controller.pde. Controller.pde basically handles the logic of fetching items. Within controller.pde, we have this function here, command. It takes a requester, an item, and a receiver. The receiver can be a room or a character. So let's say I'm just going to walk through what the command function does. So this is just basically printing a bunch of stuff to the screen for like the status of the fetch request, basically. This bit of logic here is just figuring out the room, the final room that the robot has to move to. Basically, if we say, hey, the last place to go to is a room, there's not much to really figure out there. But if the last place to go to is the room that a certain character is in, then we need to get the room that the character is in and use that room as a final room. Finally, we reach this method here, fetch procedure async. This is an asynchronous method that basically moves the robot to first a room to grab the item and then a room to place the item. and it includes information of what the item is that is actually picking up and who is receiving the item. So if you wanted to say, I don't know, add some conditional logic to be like, I don't know, if item equals nasty item, do something else, fetch procedure. This is where you would basically do that kind of logic. A quick note, when I run the program and I execute, we see a bunch of stuff printed to the console down here. If you want to print something to the console, it's pretty simple. You just have to call this method called update status. So I can say update status, and I will run once again the program. Execute. There's my little hi that I wrote there. Without knowing too much about what you're going to be doing, I'm going to say the classes that are most relevant to edit would probably be controller.pde around fetch procedure async and command, and also maybe these base classes themselves, item or character or room or whatever. You might want to add some new properties here or something like that. But who knows what you have planned. You could also just go wild and reprogram the whole thing. I don't know. It's up to you. Good luck, everyone. Bye.